the Yankees, things continue to get worse and worse, and in the series where Aaron Judge returns, the Yankees lose 2 out of 3 to the Baltimore Orioles, and Judge isn't even really the big story, and he looked very good in the 2 games he played. He did not play Game 3, which was an absolute joke, classic Yankee shit, and I'm not one to normally complain about the rest, even though I think it's stupid. I really don't like it, but like I'm not as vocal about it, but this was absolutely blasphemy for Judge to not DH in Game 3. But because Luis Severino got absolutely fucking smoked, it ends up not even really being a story. And what is the story is that Severino gives up 7 runs in the first inning, actually gave up 6 runs in the first 6 batters after he got fucking annihilated by the Orioles the last time he faced them. And then also, the Yankees strike out 18 times, which is tied for a franchise record for the Yankees in a 9-inning game. And within those 18 strikeouts, Anthony Rizzo struck out 5 times. The platinum sombrero for one Anthony Rizzo, 0 for 5 with 5 strikeouts. Just completely ridiculous. And yeah, it's tied for the most in any 9-inning game in Yankee history. Also, October 6, 2020 versus the Rays, which might have been in the playoffs. Although in that weird season, I can't remember if... I think it might have been, but... And then April 3rd, 2019 versus the Tigers early in the 2019 season. But yeah, this was, tied for... the most of the 9-inning game in franchise history. Yeah, just crazy. And like I said, Severino, he admitted after the game that he feels like he's the worst pitcher in baseball, and he kind of is. I mean, I've never seen someone just fall off like this, because we can say all we want about Sevy, but besides, in terms of like looking at season stats, early in his career, there was like one, it might have been like, I think we discussed this in previous episodes, 2016, where eventually he moved to the bullpen. That was an ugly year for him, but really, when he has been healthy, he has been good. Not just like decent, good. Has there been playoff struggles at times? Oh, absolutely. You think back to the, that first inning in the Twin game in 2017, the wild card game, where I think he got maybe 1 out in that. It was an absolute joke, but that has nothing to do with this. He has completely fallen off. It's crazy. His ERA is now sitting at about 7.5 after this game through 12 starts, which is a franchise record. So again, a lot of franchise records. But then Anthony Rizzo, and again, like we're talking a lot about Game 3 because it's fresh in our minds. But Game 3, Rizzo 0 for 5 with 5 strikeouts. So he had that one great game against the Royals, 4 for 4, home run, and he followed it up with a fucking dog shit, terrible week. 2 games versus the Mets, 3 games versus the Orioles. I think he went a combined 2 for 21 with maybe 8 or 9 strikeouts, no extra base hits. Like, it's just, the guy's been dreadful. The guy has been absolutely dreadful. And to me, he's just the poster child. Him and Stanton, but like I want to put it more on Rizzo because Stanton's like Stanton's like an easier target, and I feel like takes more of the brunt of the criticism. Where Anthony Rizzo, like in my opinion, he just gets a little bit of a pass from Yankee fans. Why? Exactly. Like I can make my guesses as to why. Like he's a likable guy. I agree with that, but like let's just talk about like when we talk about expectations and like this guy's in the heart of the Yankee lineup and he's giving you nothing offensively, nothing. So, and it's not just him, but like if he was just anywhere decent, like you're talking about a little bit of a different situation. But look, I mean, clearly, whether Judge is back or not, it does not matter as far as Anthony Rizzo is concerned. And give Judge credit. He had 3 walks in the first game back, and the second game back, 3 for 5 with a homer, like just crushing the ball. He's a special player, Aaron Judge. I mean, he really, really is. Like, to miss all that time, and, that could have been so much more of a talking point, Judge not playing the 3rd game. That is crazy. That is fucking insane. He can't play a 3rd game in a row? He can't DH? Like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, I want to talk about that more, but what does it matter? Severino got his ass kicked in the first inning, and then, you strike out 18 times, like, in a 9-inning game. And Dean Kramer is not like Dean Kramer is not someone that is a crazy strikeout guy by any means. He had 7 Ks in 4 innings, and then the Yankees had 11 Ks in the last 5 against the Orioles bullpen. And then Friday night, Gerrit Cole again, and Gerrit Cole's gonna get lost in the shuffle. But I put him in the Judge category. Gerrit Cole, brilliant, absolutely brilliant. 7 shutout innings, but the Yankees don't score a single run, and they get walked off. And the Yankees have the most walk-offs in baseball since the start of last season. I forget the number. Let me see. Is it 18? Is it 18? That feels like a lot. Let me just see. It is it is 18. That's just insane. They've been walked off 18 times since the start of last season, and that's the most in baseball. So, they lose in the bottom of the ninth there. And they just could not get a big hit. Give the Orioles credit. There was a bit of bad luck in that game where the Orioles making good defensive plays. And then game 2 was a good game. Game 2 was a bright spot. Clark Schmidt continues, just to keep, he's the opposite of Sevy, where Clark continues to just keep him in games. It wasn't pretty, but I've seen Schmidt do horrible against this Baltimore team. Like is his first start of the season. That was ugly against a tough lefty lineup. But Schmidt is he's gotten tough. And, that he's been one of the few kind of bright spots as he's progressed. And Isaiah Kiner-Falefa had an unbelievably good, bases clearing double, an amazing at bat. Just ICAF was putting up. He's been also kind of one of the best Yankee hitters within the last couple of months. But the Yankees record now drops to 55-50. They are still in last place in the division. They are still a few games out of the wild card with some teams to jump. And, the Yankees lose the season series to Baltimore, which ultimately won't matter much because now the Yankees are 9 back of Baltimore. So you can kiss that goodbye. In terms of the AL East, that's done. Baltimore, that is done. You're not winning the division. We knew that, right? But if somehow you swept, you would have been 5 out. I'm okay, then maybe you could have dreamed on it. That's over. Baltimore, Yankees will not, mark my words, the Yankees will not be catching Baltimore this season. So in terms of them winning the season series, because that's the tiebreaker, doesn't matter because we're not going to be tied with them. So let's talk about this series. It is Grayson Rodriguez on the mound for the Orioles. And again, Judge, let's, talk about a little bit of housekeeping. Judge is activated, Peraza sent down. And I'm not surprised by it. Do I love it? No, but I'm not surprised, just the way that it is. And don't be surprised to see Peraza back somewhat soon, but he gets sent down. And Willie Calhoun is designated for assignment. And that was another kind of logjam situation where, he had gotten hurt and he kind of lost his spot by getting hurt. So Willie Calhoun, we'll see if he clears waiver. We'll see what that ends up being. I tend to think that he won't be a Yankee when the dust settles, and but who knows? Not a big deal either way there. Although I did like Calhoun's bat a little bit, but he doesn't really provide much else. Nothing defensively. But Calhoun designated for assignment and Peraza sent down. And with the trade deadline on Tuesday, I'm sure there'll be a lot of different roster movement happening, and I'll just touch on that real quick, because I'm sure there will be trades of some sort coming up in the next few days that I'll be discussing, but I lean more selling. That'd be my preference, but they certainly should not be full on buyers. That I can say definitely. They should not, and I don't think they will be. How could you? How could you look at this team and say, "Yep, we're just gonna go crazy and trade away prospects and just do reckless stuff"? I'm fine with doing a buy-sell combination if you really want to, but I really, really would lean on selling, and there's not a whole lot to sell. That's kind of the problem. This is not going to be some 2016 situation. You just don't have that much to get rid of that's that attractive. So Gerrit Cole versus Grayson Rodriguez, and this was arguably Grayson Rodriguez's best start as a major leaguer. 6 1/3 innings, scoreless. Yankees didn't score in the 9 innings. But the Yankees, there were some chances to do stuff. Judge DH'd in this one. Stanton played right field. McKinney was in left. So it was kind of a rotation in left between McKinney, Kiner-Falefa, and Bowers in this series. Although, technically, no, sorry, Greg Allen, technically. That last lineup was a joke. We'll talk about that lineup when we get there. But and Rortvedt continues to catch Cole. It's really weird. And they were kind of going at it. Cole's just such a competitor. I think Warford will continue to catch him, but it is weird. Although now that I'm kind of thinking out loud here, with McClanahan the lefty, that'll be interesting. So Cole McClanahan is the third game of the Rays series, and I'm pretty sure this year Higgy homered off of McClanahan. So that situation where if Rortvedt catches Cole, then it's weird how he literally just does not want Higgy to catch him, which is bizarre again because when it was Sanchez and Higgy, Cole specifically wanted Higgy, which again says a lot about Sanchez, but we already knew that. That's not a surprise. But then so we'll wait on that. My guess is it's Higgy, but if it isn't, then Rortvedt, then it's not even so much that it's Rortvedt being the personal the catcher. It's just he doesn't like Higgy, and it's weird. It's they knew each other. There's a relationship there dating back before the Yankees. So we'll see what happens there. Anyway, Rortvedt catches Cole. And this was a long rain delay, about a 2.5-hour rain delay. So a 9:30 start in Baltimore. Judge lines out first pitch. But then he walked the next 3 times, which makes sense. When you have Rizzo batting behind, and you have the shit batting behind Judge, they should have done that in game 2, but I guess they weren't able to all the time, and Judge is really good against Tyler Wells, and he just dominates the Orioles. His numbers versus Baltimore is insane. But Cole versus Rodriguez was a really good pitcher's duel. There's not a whole lot for me really to discuss. A couple of big double plays. Stanton double play in the 4th. Stanton had a bad game in game 1. Really bad game for Giancarlo Stanton. Big double play with first and second one out there. Bader had a rough game, and for Bader, he has not really been great. He had that nice game against the Mets that second game, but overall, I feel like his play has just not been all that good. I'd have to look at the stats in the series, because I don't think it's all bad either, but I'm not feeling great about Harrison Bader currently, because he had a big double play in the 7th, where they bring in Fujinami for Rodriguez, which was seen as a good thing for the Yankees. Fujinami, who had struggled with Oakland, and now he's a reliever, and he kind of did well versus the Yankees this series. Eventually, it's Bader with first and second one out, and he hits a double play. These are situations where you have to get a big hit. It's not happening. Cole goes 7 strong. Again, I feel bad. Gerrit Cole has not had wins when he should have, and he is definitely the front runner for the AL Cy Young. Continues to be so. Yennier Cano, who the Yankees have hit hard, and again, they hit him hard in the 8th inning here. Anthony Santander, who was the player of the game in this game, and I should also say Volpe hit into some bad luck. He got robbed earlier in the game by Urias at third, but Volpe gets robbed in right field. A line drive that if Santander doesn't catch this is a double or a triple, but he does catch it. Then Jake Bauers pinch hits for Rortvedt, gets a single. Then Glaber grounds out, and so you have Judge up, and he's walked. Then they bring in the lefty Danny Colomé. And Rizzo, as mad as I am with him, this was bad luck. He hits the ball well, and Adam Frazier makes a great play in the hole. So that increases Rizzo's streak to 0 for 29 with runners in scoring position and 2 outs. But again, I can't kill him for that specifically, but that was a great defensive play by the Orioles. Then Michael King comes on in the 8th. Leadoff walked Austin Hayes, which was bad. He got ahead of him, then he walked him. But then he does strike out Cowser and Urias. And then Wandy Peralta, 1 pitch, 1 out to Gunnar Henderson. Then the 9th, the Yankees don't touch Felix Bautista. Stanton in particular looked bad. And then with 1 out, it is a walk-off homer. Anthony Santander off of Tommy Kahnle, who seemed like he was kind of turning a corner lately, but then he gives it that homer there. So for Kahnle, mixed results, but a real tough loss for the Yankees. And you look back on this series, and that was the game. That was where you had to win the series. Look, Gerrit Cole gives you 7 scoreless innings. You win game 2, as it turns out. That was where you win the series. And then what transpired in game 3 doesn't sting really nearly as much, in my opinion. Look, obviously there's a greedy sense to things, but it's let's say you found a way to win game 1 and you end up getting pummeled in game 3 the way you did. I think the outlook on this episode is a little more rosy, but instead it ends up being pretty negative, and deservedly so. So game 2, Clark Schmidt versus Tyler Wells. The Yankees have had success against Tyler Wells, and I think he's struggled lately for Baltimore. Got off to a hot start, but it's kind of cooled down. And the Yankees went with a pretty heavy righty lineup. I guess Wells is a reverse splits guy, but either way, Stanton back to DH. Judge plays right field, so they swap. And some slight lineup tweaks. but Clark Schmidt kind of, grinded it out. Look, 5 innings, 3 runs isn't great, but I still came away pretty impressed by what he did, and just continues to really just do a nice job. It was a very ugly April, and ever since then, I think he's got like a 3.2 ERA in his last, for whatever Sevy is, right? So Sevy's at like 7.5 in 12 starts. Within that time, Clark Schmidt's like half that. So, again, taking the innings limits aside, he absolutely deserves to be in this rotation, and not even really a question about it. So, which is impressive because I didn't think that'd be the case. I really, but here we are. Yankees take the lead in the first. Giancarlo Stanton homers, his 14th homer of the year. He needed that after a rough night the night before. He homers off of Wells, makes it 1-0, but the Orioles strike for 2 in the bottom of the second. But this is after Harrison Bader with an absolutely brain-dead base running move. He ends up on third with 1 out, I'll just say that. And Volpe's up, and he ends up getting picked off third, where Rushman throws to Arias and he tags him out. I don't know what Bader was thinking. I'm not even going to get into it. I don't even know what he was thinking. Just absolutely stupid baseball. So it stays 1-0. And then in the second, Mountcastle homers off of Schmidt. And eventually, with 2 outs, you get an RBI infield single by Arias. Volpe tried to make the play. It was a tough play, and the Orioles take a 2-1 lead. But the Yankees bounce back in the third. Higashioka, who had a really nice night, leadoff single, and then you get a 1-out, 2-run homer by Aaron Judge. His 20th homer of the season. It's as if he never got hurt. It's crazy. He looks great. And the Yankees take a 3-2 lead. Tyler Wells would not make it through the third inning. In the fourth, the Yankees get a bit of insurance. You get a single by Bader, a 1-out single by Higashioka, and then a sac fly by Gleyber Torres. So Gleyber, who did not do, his hitting streak comes to an end. It was at 15, and it sucks. Judge comes back, and you want Gleyber to continue doing what he's doing. I wouldn't say he necessarily looked bad or anything, but he cooled off this series. But he does get a sac fly there, and he's been good for that. Gleyber, again, in those situations, runner on third, less than 2 outs, he is one of the guys you certainly want up there. And the Yankees take a 4-2 lead right there. But the Orioles do score in the fifth, thanks to a 1-out walk by Rushman, double Gunnar Henderson, and then an RBI ground out by Santander. But then he strikes out O'Hearn. And that was a big strikeout. That ended Schmidt's night. It kept him in line for the win, which he would get. It was a 7, and now Schmidt improves to 7-6 on the season. But again, things could have kind of blown up in his face there, but he's able to kind of, squirm out of it. And then in the sixth, Higashioka homers start the inning. Higgy's 6th homer of the night. It was a 3-hit night for Higashioka. Gives the Yankees a 5-3 lead. And then the big blow happens in this inning. With 1 out, Judge singles. Then Stanton singles on a play where Frazier could have made it. Could have been a double play. He was hit hard, but he doesn't make the play. Then Rizzo singles, and they bring on Brian Baker, who strikes out LeMahieu. And while it wasn't a terrible at-bat by LeMahieu, he is now 1 for 7 with the bases loaded this year with 1 RBI. That is completely unacceptable for DJ LeMahieu, someone who used to thrive in those situations. But then Isaiah Kiner-Falefa puts on just an unbelievable at-bat. A 10-pitch at-bat, which results in a bases-clearing double and extends the Yankee lead to 8-3. That was just nice. And Kiner-Falefa has been, honestly, one of the few feel-good stories this season. Really has been. And then from there, it's a combination of Ian Hamilton and Nick Ramirez. They did a really nice job. Ian Hamilton goes 2 innings, gets 3 strikeouts, and then Nick Ramirez, he also goes 2 scoreless. I think he got 1 strikeout. So the Yankees end up retiring, I think, the last 13 Oriole batters. So that was a nice job there. And for Ian Hamilton specifically, definitely deserves to be thrown into some high-leverage situations, but we'll see. But the Loaiza kind of on the mend. It's kind of a deep bullpen in some ways, so I don't know if Hamilton will get those opportunities, but I've been impressed by what I've seen after a little bit of a blip when he returned from the injury. So now let's go to Sunday Night Baseball, Game 3, and let's just get through this quickly. It was ugly. Severino again gets absolutely annihilated, and just too many times this year. I think back to the Dodger game, I think back to the Oriole game, and there's some that are escaping me where he got absolutely smoked. That I'm just not, I'll check out the game log real quick, because I want to get through this. Sevy, okay, so we know it was that Dodger game. The Mets was ugly, but they were still in it. So that one kind of counts. Right, it was the Cardinals. That was the one. It was the Cardinals. So on July 1st, he got killed against St. Louis. Then the next start, he got killed against the Orioles. And then he followed up with doing okay against the Angels and Royals, only to tonight getting killed again by the Orioles. So his ERA sits at 7.49 and his whip is 1.84. I mean, really, and his opposing batting average is 329. Like, he really is putting up league worst numbers. It's crazy. He can't stay in this rotation for much longer. So Judge didn't play in this one. Neither did LeMahieu, which was interesting because he had really good numbers off of Dean Kramer, as did Judge. So Greg Allen gets his first start since coming back from his injury. Connor Falefa played third base, where LeMahieu was on the bench. Bowers leads off and plays right field. But Severino just, we'll just get to it real quick. Single Rushman, single Henderson, RBI double Santander, 2-run double O'Hearn, walk Hayes, and a 3-run over by Frazier. 6-0 in 6 batters. And then eventually you get a 1-out single by Westberg. He steals second with 2 outs. Adley Rutschman, for good measure, gets another single in the first inning. It's an RBI single, makes it 7-0 Orioles. So there was that. Then in the second inning, I thought what was ridiculous was Higashioka, with Kramer struggling and throwing a lot of balls and walks. He had 2 straight walks to that point. 3-1 count with Higgy. You got to just take there. It was a strike, don't get me wrong, but Higgy grounds out. Again, maybe something big happens. And what kind of hurts it more is that in the third, Bowers homers. His 8th homer of the season for Jake Bowers. And then Glaber almost homered. It was off the top of the wall. I mean, this Orioles Stadium, Camden Yards, it's become a joke where left field was easy to homer. Now it's impossible. Glaber hits it off the top of the left field wall. And then the Yankees don't do anything with it. Stanton strikeout, Rizzo strikeout, Connor Falefa strikeout. So it stays 7-1. Then in the fourth, the Yankees do get on the board. It's an RBI double by Bowers. But then with second and third, 2 out, Glaber pops out. So it's 7-2. And then Severino, who had settled down a little bit, then walk Rutschman, RBI double Gunnar Henderson, and then eventually an RBI single by O'Hearn. And so after 3 1/3 innings of 9-run ball, Sevy's out. And the rest of the game was a combination of Marinaccio and Abreu, and they actually did well. Again, it was mop duty, and for Marinaccio, it's more significant because he had struggled lately. Marinaccio did pretty, did a nice job for what it's worth in his outing. And look, Kramer only went 4+ innings, but the Yankees really couldn't break through. In the fifth, you do get a sac fly by Harrison Bader that makes it 9-3. That would be your final score. There's not a whole lot else to talk about here. Except really the strikeouts were just crazy significant. And I think the Yankees' numbers of runners in scoring position had to be pretty bad. Or certainly runners on base. In the ninth inning, Cano strikes out the side. Torres, Stanton, and Rizzo specifically is just a killer. The line on Marinaccio, it was 2 2/3 innings, no hits, no walks, 4 strikeouts. So hopefully just confidence-wise that gets him going. I'm still skeptical, but hopefully that helps. Abreu also did fine. Yankees were 2 for 11 runners in scoring position, and even worse at runners on. Just really, because they got the leadoff runner on seemingly probably 6 or 7 out of the 9 innings. But the Yankees lose. They fall 9 games on the Orioles, and they're 3 out in the loss column. Of the second and third wild card spots, which are occupied by the Blue Jays and Astros. Now let's preview this series. So now you have a 7-game homestand, and really I think this kind of determines the Yankees season. The trade deadline's on Tuesday. It's 3 games versus the Rays and then 4 versus the Astros. So these three Rays games is Tyler Glasnow versus Domingo Germán. And for Germán, it's a big outing for him. His rotation spot is also somewhat on the line with Cortez coming back probably in about a week's time or so. That matchup we'll see. Then it's Zach Eflin versus Carlos Rodon, who was decent versus the Mets. Probably more than decent, but I really want to see more. And then Wednesday's a fun one in terms of a couple of aces, who have had similar outings versus the Yankees and Rays, where McClanahan and Cole, if you remember, kind of had those starts where they blew it, kind of out of nowhere. Very unlike them. They'll face off against each other. McClanahan versus Cole should be pretty fun for that last game of the series. And one thing else I want to mention is just the Yankees, especially these Friday through Sunday games. This is me talking about the Orioles series. Lose Friday, win Saturday, lose Sunday. That seems to be a bit of a theme, and they are terrible on Fridays. They're 2-13 or something to that effect. But either way, they come home where they're better at Yankee Stadium, but things are not great. Going to be very interesting to see. We'll, very likely talk. Please like and subscribe, as we are definitely going to discuss trades that happen. I'm not expecting anything major, but I am expecting a flurry of activity in the next few days. But in the meantime, a really big series coming up against the Tampa Bay Rays, a team that's coming off of winning 2 of 3 at the Astros, but they have struggled overall. This will be an interesting one. And again, Yankees lose, Aaron Judge returns, but it does not matter. The Yankees lose 2 out of 3 to the Baltimore Orioles.